Hi fellow Django developers, Hezekiah here from alwaysdjango.com, where we discuss interesting Django topics that helps you grow, improve as a Django developer. So if that sounds interesting, like, comment, share this video with anyone you think will find this video interesting. Let's get into it. So Django. What is Django? Today we are going to discuss what Django. We are going to find out what Django is. And a side note, guys, if you are here, it means you are new to Django. You don't know what Django is and you are trying to learn Django, right? So this will be part of the introductory video to our absolute, like, complete Django beginner playlist, where we are going to discuss Django from the barest minimum. So if you are not subscribed, subscribe, turn up that notification so that you stay in tune, so that you'll be updated, you will be informed when we release new videos on this Django absolute beginner playlist. So let's get into it. What is Django? Django is a high level pragmatic Python framework for quick and easy development of secure, scalable web applications that are easy to maintain using the MVT pattern, right? So main notes here is that Django is a Python framework. So what's a framework? Framework are like tools that are put together to get a specific target. In this case, we are talking about web development, web application development. So Django is a Python framework. Django is a Python framework that makes it easy and seamless for us to develop web applications using Python, right? So the MVT pattern, we'll get into that later. So how does Django work, right? Django follows the MVT, which stands for Model View Template Coding Pattern, where the model is the class representation of our database tables, enabling the use of ORM, Object Relational Mapping, which makes it easier for developers to run SQL queries, that's SQL queries. Then view, the V is for view. View, they are request handling functions and classes. They receive requests, communicate with the models when necessary, processes the information, and return a specific response, whether JSON, HTML, or file response, etc. Then template, this is the front end of our application, right? It is the HTML, etc. It is the part of our website where users can interact with. So model view template, let me bring out my pen tool here. So model view template, so let's say this is the model, this is the view, this is the template, right? This is the template here, this is the view, this is the model, right? So from the name, you know that you get to understand that the view is in the middle. Now the view is a request handler. Now when let's say this whole place is our server, this whole container is our server. So when requests are sent, when you go to the URL, press enter, go to our URL, when requests are sent to the server right here, right, when we send request to the server, it comes into this view, right? We say it is a request handling function or classes. So this view can be a function or a class. So when you send a request into our Django server, our Python server, it comes to our view. Now the view handles this request. Now it communicates with the model. It comes here, access the model. We say the model is the class representation of our database, which makes it easier for us to use ORM, Object Relational Mapping. So when the request comes to the view, it accesses the model, queries the database for maybe information that are stored in the database, maybe the user username, the user last login date, the user password, and what have you. So when it gets those results, the model takes it back to the view. So when it takes it back to the view gets these results. When it gets this result, it carries this result to the template, right? Now in the template, if maybe a form is submitted, it sends back a request to the view, right? It sends back this request to the view. Now the view gets this, goes back to the model, and that's how the back and forth. That's the circular. It goes round. That's the circular request response pattern for Django, right? So if you don't understand this, I understand. I really understand that you are a beginner, and like most of this sounds like new and abstract to you, right? So that's why I'm saying you should turn off the notification and subscribe so that you get to understand this, because in this playlist we are discussing, in this absolute Django beginner playlist, we are discussing everything, both model, view, template, right? So if you don't understand this now, is understandable, right? We are going to discuss this later. So in the next slide, you say why use Django, right? Obviously there are many other web development frameworks. We have Laravel with PHP, we have Flask with Django, we have Cake PHP, we have lots of frameworks, right? So why use Django? You say number one, versatility. With Django, you have the opportunity to develop any kind of web application, be it e-commerce, social media, content management, Wix, etc. The versatility of this framework is also reflected in the way with which it can be combined with front-end technologies like jQuery, Bootstrap, React, etc. Secondly, maintainability. Because Django is built on strong development philosophies like DRY, which stands for don't repeat yourself, and MVT, which we have discussed previously, easier it is to follow these development principles, by so making maintenance easier, right? So secondly, suitability. It is developed with Python, which relatively runs on any platform. By so doing, you can trust your code to be deployed to any server, right? So great documentation. Django documentation is awesome. Like you can literally learn Django from the documentation, not only, right, from the documentation. Like it's very helpful to look at the documentation. Then other points, personally, why the reasons why I also like Django is the community, right? Django community is huge, is big. There is no how you have maybe an error question about Django, go to Google and enter it more, there must be an answer, right? Either in YouTube, Stack Overflow, what have you, there must be an answer. Then Python is, will I say, is considered easy, right? So for beginners, for new developers, Python is considered like a stepping stone into programming and other programming language. So because Django is built with Python, it's probably easier for you to learn Django, right? So who uses Django? Obviously, many applications use Django, many web applications, many companies use Django. The popular ones we have here is Mozilla. The second one is Instagram. We have Pinterest. We have Spotify. We have Discourse, right? We have the National Geography. The National Geography also uses Django. So if these companies, if these big industries use Django, it means Django is worth learning, right? Which takes us to the next slide. You say how to learn Django. Now, prerequisites, we have Python. Obviously, Django is a Python framework. You have to know Python, but it's not like you have to be like a sort of expert or pro in Python. Just basic Python syntax. You have to know functions. You have to know classes and class inheritance, like basic Python things. You have to know about decorators and just basic Python, what variables are, variable scopes, etc. Right? So you have to know basic web concepts. You have to know about the HTTP request and response cycle. Then it's also important you know about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, right? It's very important you know the basics of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, because after all, we are developing web applications with Django, right? So HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are like basics. Maybe not really JavaScript. You need JavaScript, obviously. I'm not saying you don't need JavaScript, but HTML and CSS are like, is a must, right? Python, HTML, CSS. You have to know the basics of these languages, right? So, how can you learn Django? And we have a website, alwaysdjango.com. That's our website, the website for this Django channel, alwaysdjango.com. I'll leave a link to it in the description. We discuss interesting Django topics. That's what we do. So most times we already have articles here discussing these topics we talk about in our YouTube channel. So most times we really most times reference this website to get most of our content. So to learn Django, I would recommend this website, alwaysdjango.com, our YouTube channel, read the documentation, practice, and work, collaborate with other developers, and just try to improve, right? Django is interesting. There is nothing really difficult about Django. So subscribe, guys. I'm through with the video is done. Just subscribe, turn on the notification to stay in tuned, because we are releasing, I've said this already, we are releasing new videos on our absolute complete Django beginner playlist. So that's it for me, guys. I hope you have learned something. I hope you have a basic understanding of what Django is, of what you need Django for, of why you need Django, of companies that use Django, and of the prerequisites and how you can learn Django, right? So that's it for me, guys. Take care of yourself and stay safe. Peace.